Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Is your dog joining you today, Stephanie?
He's going to take over my spot in the meeting.
Okay.
Hey everyone, how are you? All right. I think normally we would start with demos, but I think just because like 50% of people are not here, let me skip ahead and do issues. And then hopefully by the time I'm done with that, everyone will be here so we can demo, if that's good with you all. Cool. Yeah, because I know sometimes we run up on that 1 hour and I don't want to have to keep you for too long. All right. Nick, can you give me screen sharing?
Should be good now. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Zoom is weird. Awesome. I'm on the wrong tab. Yeah, my sound settings are not quite right. Give me a sec here. Cool. Yeah, should be good to go. All right, so we've got 2 tasks for this week. The first one is task 6. And before our call, I always forget whose GitHub handle is whose. So I just assigned according to the project brief. So this looks like it is Aloe and Steffi's task. This week is you two are going to be inviting other users to an existing shopping list. So looks like down here, the acceptance criteria on that manage list page, you're going to be adding a form. I think it's a second form. Yeah. In order to, the person will just enter an email and then you can invite that person to your list. And then there's a few more kind of detailed acceptance criteria. Requires a semantic label, similar to the other ones where you can submit the form with both a mouse and an enter key. And yeah, and then there's some like if the user exists, alert the user that the list was shared. If the other user does not exist, the user is shown an error message. And then down here, there's some like pretty good references on MDN about how to use the label and a few other things. So any questions on that before we move on? Okay. Yeah, if anything comes up, as always, like definitely ping us. And then the other task for this week is going to be Hannah and Emilio. You two are going to be filtering the shopping list. So these lists can potentially get pretty long. And on the top of that list view, you'll be adding a form with just like a text input. And you can search the list for things. Similar deal, semantic label. And it should match any part of the item name. So not only match the start of the string. And I think another question that I usually get about this is if it should be case sensitive or not. I will leave that up to the two of you to decide on that. It'd be cool if they added it in, but yeah, I almost always get asked that. But any questions on 7? I guess just Emilio today.
No questions. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. And like I said before, as always, if you have any, it's a lot of times questions come up as you're working on things. So awesome. So that's issues for the week. Let's get to demos if you all are ready. Which group wanted to share first?
I'm happy to go if you feel ready, Emilio, or do you want a little bit of time?
I'm ready.
Okay. We decided I would do the demo for you all and Emilio would walk through the code. So let me get that started. Let's see, share screen. You guys see my screen? Let's see, I'm gonna get rid of this Zoom. There we go. Inspect. Okay, so we have our shopping list. Not signed in yet, but there is a create a new shopping list form. If I try to create one, it gives me an error. Okay. So I wonder if that needs to be managed in another way, but let's refresh the page, sign in. Here's the list I already have. Fun. Let's create a new list. Fruit. So we've got our list in it, and then it, we need to do that again. I'm looking for our message that tells us it's created. Let's see, dog list. Your list dog was successfully created, then it navigates us to the list page. When we look at our local storage, we have our key, which was assigned by the code. And then we have our value, which was the user UUID and the name of the list. Let's see, dog. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I am currently in a coffee shop, so if there's background noise and it becomes too much, just let me know. My Wi-Fi went out a few moments ago. Okay, I'll start my portion by sharing the screen. Okay, so Stephanie and I completed 7 tasks for issue number 4. For that issue, we had to create a form to allow the user to set up a shopping list to track purchased items. And Stephanie just provided a live walkthrough of the app. And we'll start by discussing the form that we created for the home view in the browser. And we wanted to keep the code clean in the home JSX page. So what we did was we created an add list child component that we passed in, as you see here on line 11. And in the add list component itself, we created a function named add list to create a form for the user for purposes of them entering that grocery list name and then creating the list corresponding with that name. The add list component itself also takes in a set list path function, which is passed down in the app file itself. It's passed down in the app file itself here through the home component on line 51. On line 20 in the app file, the set list path function is written here, which is code that was provided for us. And the state variable set list path is set by the use state with storage function, which uses TCL shopping list path as the key in local storage and list path as the corresponding value for that key in local storage. The use state with storage function is called from hooks.js, which uses a set item method to persist the path for the grocery list as the value in local storage. Now that we've gone over those portions of the code, we can fully focus on add list. So in add list, as I mentioned, we passed in set list path as a parameter, and we declared a few state variables here. The first is list name, which represents the name of the grocery list, and message, which represents the message displayed for the user after they attempt to create a list. So the message will state whether it was created successfully or not. And the last state variable, it represents the user, which is shown here on line 10 for the user that's currently signed in. And we obtain information for that user using the useAuth function. We also added a navigate variable here on line 9 to call the useNavigate function for purposes of navigating from the created list back to the list page. So we created the main function in our component here is the handle submit function, which handles the submission of the form for the grocery list name. So we first wrote a prevent default method here to prevent the form from submitting, which is its default behavior, followed by a try catch block. In the try statement, we declared a new list variable and assigned it a create list function. The function adds a new grocery list to the signed in users lists in Firestore based on their user ID and email. On the next line here, we declared a list path variable and assigned to it the signed in user's ID and the name of the grocery list that the user inputs in the form that we created. Next, we have an if-else statement that we wrote here that takes in the new list variable holding the create list function and if for the if statement itself, if the user's list creation is successful, then we called the set list name function to change the grocery list name held in state to whatever the user inputs in our form on the page. We also called the set message function to change the message held in state and show that the user either successfully or did not create a grocery list. And we also called the set list path function to reflect the list path variable and set that as the value in local storage. Finally, based on feedback that we received from Hannah, we wrote a set timeout function here to delay the navigation to the list page for 2 seconds after the list is successfully created. The else statement that's written here calls the set message function to display a message that the list creation was not successful. And then the catch statement pictured here simply displays an error message if the list creation was unsuccessful. In our in the form piece here in the return statement, we created our form for the user to input a grocery list name and create the corresponding list. And when the user's form is submitted, we call the handle submit function to run the functions that I described up here. And we added a label to signal to the user that they are creating a shopping list in the text field that follows. And we added an on-change function for that field that calls the set list name function. And the list name is changed according to the input that the user enters into the field. At the end of the form, we included a button labeled as Create List to handle the submission of the form. And below that button, we put a div element to display the message of whether the list creation was successful or not. We originally used a logical and Boolean operator, but based on feedback from Elo that was helpful, we changed it to a ternary operator to prevent any potential future issues in our app creation. So this concludes our code walkthrough.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the demo?
I have one, just I noticed that when you, I think it looked like, Stephanie, when you initially tried to create a list while not signed in, we had an error that we haven't done anything with yet. So maybe just a note for that can be like something you add on later. I don't know if that was something that was part of the issue to like make to specifically do anything for that case. But I think that would be a good thing to add some error handling for that case of not being signed in and attempting to create a list.
I think part of these two issues kind of brought up that idea of what kind of authorization we're going to use in the app for signing in or not signing in. And so I think that would be part of that whole conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of a conversation we were having in the sidelines of like not even showing that until the user is logged in, and then that kind of handles that edge case on its own. Are we moving forward?
Yeah, we can if you all are ready.
Cool. I will be doing all of the demoing today. Let me Okay, so I'm already signed in. Our issue was that we wanted to be able to add items, oh my goodness, to our list. So the way that why is it not showing up? Cool. Okay. Sweet. So when on the manage list page, I guess I should start here. So when you're here, you can click like what list you want to be on. And then Why is it not navigating? Okay, well, then on this list page, it would show you what items are there. And then from the manage list page, you can add things. So currently I'm on my closed list, which it did not navigate me to my closed list. We can look at that in a second. But I could, you know, say that I need to buy some pants. And then we gave a time frame. We've got soon, kind of soon, not so soon. We'll say kind of soon. And then we're gonna add our item. We get a message that says that the item has been added. And if we go back to our list, we now have the pants item added to our list. And so, yeah, that was our issue. So now let me show you the code. Okay, so we created a component that has the like functionality of the add item. Where we kind of started is we had to look at the schema for our Firebase and kind of like what information is being passed through in the parameters. So the information that's getting passed into the function, which we'll talk about, is the item name and then the days until the next purchase. So we inputted just an empty string and a value of 0 to start off with. And then that information will change based on how the user inputs things. So this is kind of like what we've got. So we've got our label for the item name. It takes an onChange function of the handle input change, which I'll talk about up there. And then the value is going to be the item value of the name that's then inputted. And then we called it time frame because that's a lot faster than days until next purchase. But days until next purchase is what's in the schema. So that's kind of what we used for the value here. And then we created a select kind of drop down, and we gave each value a number. So we wanted soon was supposed to be 7 days, kind of soon is 14 days, and not so soon is 30 days. But they are technically strings here. So that's one thing that I'll talk about when we get to the function. And then we have a button that just submits the item. And one of our acceptance criteria was to make it so that the form submits on both if you were to click return or enter, as well as if you were to click the actual button. So having the button within the form kind of does that for you. So up here we have our functions. So we have our handle input change. So this is basically just saying that like as the user is updating the information, it should be updating in real time. So it's setting the item value from whatever the previous state was to the current state. So we have it so that the if the type is select. So if you're working on choosing an option from our select, it's going to take that value that we had, which was a string, and turn it into a integer. And then if it's not a select, then it's just going to be whatever the value was. So that's for like the item name. And then we have our handle submit function. So upon submitting, it's going to want to refresh the page. So we put in prevent default to kind of prevent that. And then we also have a try catch block. And then in our try catch block, if the item's going to be added, it'll give the alert that says item added, and then it's going to run the function of add item. And add item is actually coming in from our Firebase API. So we'll talk about that in a second. And it takes the parameters of the list path as well as the item value. If there is an error, it will then update us with an error. So we'll get this like a same kind of message that just says error adding item to the database. So to kind of give some background on this add item function in our Firebase. So here's our function. It is an async function. So that's why we used the await in our component itself. So it takes the add item takes the list path. So that way we know like where it's going. It's going to have the item name, and then it's going to have that days until next purchase. So the code that we were kind of given here is that we were given this list collection reference. And what we needed to do was take this and kind of update that information so that it would be then added to that collection. So an error that we actually ran into while doing this is we didn't initially have this new doc ref right here. So right here, we were actually calling the list collection ref. But the error that we were receiving is that we were trying to update a collection, but what we needed to be updating was a doc. So we turned the collection into a doc so that we could then update it with the correct information in our component. Set doc is a I guess not a prop. It's one of the Firebase's. Is it a prop? I think it's a prop. It is a functionality that Firebase has for updating the doc. So that was something that was also given to us kind of in the code already. The last bit is so to then put all that together, because we put it into a component out here, we then needed to put it into our manage list component or view. And so we imported it, called it here, and then we're just passing down that list path so that it knows what list it's getting added to. And yeah, that was our issue.
Cool. Yeah. Very nice job demoing. I think this is my fault too, because I missed it. I was the code reviewer. I wonder if you all could delete like the comments. That might be a good, like the to-do. Okay.
Yeah, so like literally, okay, so this morning when Hannah was like, hey, I can't do this, I didn't get that message until like 20 minutes ago. And I guess maybe not 20 minutes ago because we've been in this call for 20 minutes, but 20 minutes prior to the call. And so I was like, oh, I gotta go look at that part of the code because we were gonna split it up by like, I was gonna do the UI portion and then she was gonna do the data portion. So I was like, I have to go look at this right now. And while I was looking at it, I was like, there's comments. And then I was like, well, we're about to demo. We'll get to it. So yeah, we deleted some of the comments from last week that were left up. So we were, we're halfway there.
Cool. Yeah, not a big deal. Sounds like you're on top of it already though. So awesome. Great minds. Anyone else have any like comments, compliments, anything like that? Cool.
Just great job presenting, on the fly part of it. So
Yeah, great job, everyone. Yeah, it can be a little challenging at first to talk about code and find the right words. So this is kind of a great playground for that when you have that real interview. So nice job, everyone. I guess
I will say it was really hard to talk about Firebase because I still don't fully understand Firebase. So there's like a lot of stuff that we were doing that was like, I'm doing this because I'm reading the doc, but I don't have the language for what I'm doing because it's new to me. So yeah.
You sounded like you knew what you were talking about with Firebase, so that's what's important.
Cool. Yeah, thanks everyone. I guess we're ready to move on to the retro. If you want to take over, Jeremiah.
Yeah, sure. So this is going to be our retro board in the chat. And retros are a part of Agile, a part of teamwork where teams kind of reflect on the last bit of the app or project that they were doing to see, what's going well and what they need to change up and things that they could improve on. Kind of like, Rosebud Thorn or that kind of thing where you pick something that's good, something that you want to see more of and something you want to see less of. Um, and I guess I can share it. Okay. So this is our retro board that we're going to be using. So the way that it's going to work is we're just going to spend some time um filling out the different sections of it. So we'll probably spend like you say 10 minutes, Danielle? Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think 10 minutes good.
Something like that. And yeah, you just click add item on the bottom and then you get to type. And then like Danielle did here, put your name or some indicator at the end because after this we're gonna go through the board from left to right. Um, and if you're the one that wrote it, then you're gonna have the opportunity to talk about, what you thought. So that way we can know whose thoughts we're looking at. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's finish up what if we're working on any others. I haven't seen any new ones in around a minute, so I feel like we're probably good to start, but okay. And then it looks like the first one is yours, Danielle.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks everyone for being communicative. We understand that life happens and it makes things way easier versus waiting around for someone who might not show up. So thank you all.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, the second one's mine. Just nothing's really, there haven't really been any like major issues that couldn't be solved in like one Slack message. So everything's going really smoothly so far, which is good, great to see. And then we have Steffi.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone was like, I just had said randomly that I was going out of town, and it seemed like everyone was like, we got you. Like, let's get through this Monday too. It just seemed like so nice. I felt really supported. So thanks, everyone.
Aloe.
Yeah, I have the next two. I really appreciate how much energy people put into this, which also kind of goes with the communicative. And just like there's so much back and forth, and I know that sometimes that can be stressful. Or like I know that we all have lives outside of this, so it's just really cool to see how much people put into this. Oh, and then also with the communicative is just that everyone is like very on top of it of like, I have this question. Okay, I have this question. Okay, here's my answer. Okay, here's my answer. And just like, it's very nice.
Nick.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to both Aloe and Emilio for adapting today to losing their partner and losing their internet. So thinking on your feet.
And then I appreciate Danielle for looking ahead and making sure that us mentors always know what part of the things that are happening for the week are our responsibility. It makes it really easy to know like what we need to be prepared for. Emilio.
Yeah, so everyone did a great job this week with communication and prompt code reviews, and I think like the combination of that helped keep the issues moving.
Mine
Nah,
is just that it's the same.
yeah, a lot to be appreciative about. This is, yeah, we filled out this board super quick, so that's also cool to see. Steffi.
I like am constantly like just impressed by everyone in the group. Every time you guys do anything, I'm like, they're so cool. That's really, all of you are just like really like I feel better about trying hard because you guys are all, and I really appreciate that.
Danielle.
Yeah, just great job to all the pairs over the 2 weeks. I think we had stuff merged by like Thursday, somewhere on Wednesday. Like that's way earlier than other groups that I've seen, and it just makes things way easier to know that you all are on top of it and we're not merging things like Saturday night before the demo. So thank you all.
Yeah, Sunday morning even. Then we have Nick.
Yeah, just this team's doing really great with communication, collaboration, and it's pretty impressive considering y'all don't know each other well. And so for some of you, this is your first time working on a group coding project. So killing it as far as that goes.
Steffi.
I feel like for me, when I review something, I'm like, that's awesome. And I don't even, it's like really hard for me to see mistakes. And everybody on the team so far is just like on it, and it's helping me to really like start to like see what are issues, even though it seems well managed. And then everyone is really just responding very quickly and communicating really well about the reviews, which is really helpful. I'm learning a lot.
And then Aloe.
Yeah, I feel like this week the PRs were really interesting because I somehow had code before it like got other commits, even though I hadn't pulled the branch prior to those commits. So
Mhm.
feedback was interesting because I had this like big long list of like, oh, these are the things that I'm seeing, but they had like been fixed. They had been just not somehow made it to my computer. And
Mm.
I really appreciated, which I know this is also in the appreciation, but it went well because in this process, like Emilio didn't make me feel stupid or like silly or like why is your computer not doing the thing? And so I think that like uh people are just really receptive to feedback during PRs, which is awesome instead of being stubborn.
Emilio.
Yeah, I think PR reviews went really well this week in terms of the uh, like the substance of the feedback that we were given. We were able to make changes to include our app, specifically the set timeout function, and then also the ternary operator that I would recommend. So yeah, both very helpful suggestions that we implemented.
Next one's me. Everyone's asking good questions, and it does really seem like the only issues when we're looking at things in hindsight is that like we're leaving in some comments which aren't even that like there's no issue with the code itself, which is like really nice to see that there's no like, oh, I should have done this or anything like that. It's kind of getting done right the first time, which is cool. And then Aloe.
I just really appreciate and think that we're doing great on demos. It's thorough, it's concise, it's clear.
And then Danielle.
Yeah, this isn't meant as like a rag on prior groups that I've mentored, but I've definitely noticed a pattern of like the first week, one of the pairs always seems to have some like pretty serious Git conflict issues. And I didn't see that this time. So either you're hiding your Git issues really well or you're resolving them yourself, or great job everyone on that. Yeah, Git is hard to deal with, especially when it's, one of your first times collaborating with people. So nice job.
Yeah, doubly agree with that. And it looks like the next one is also you, Danielle.
Yeah, looks like me and Ella have the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that initial like Firebase. I think it was like the ref versus the array thing.
I
Yeah,
set them
just
up as a
making
string,
sure
yeah.
it's up. Yeah.
Aloe, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think that we tried really hard to project it, and then we were like, I swear we've done everything that we can. And then when I was really looking at the schema, I was like, this is wrong. I just don't know how it's supposed to be right because I've never written schema with Firebase. So I was like, but yeah.
Yeah, that definitely could be smoother. So I know that's something that like TCL were looking at. And then Danielle again.
Yeah, just I think overall maybe just being a little better about our time management at the sinks, because we only have an hour each week, and just making sure that we move things along but still got meaningful conversation. And I think one thing maybe I could have done better last week was when we ran out of time for the conversations, just like proactively do like a Slack thread, so we can continue to talk about that stuff, because I didn't do that and we didn't have that conversation. So
And then it's me. Some of the auth things aren't as clear as they should be. Like, we've had the question a few times of like what things should be like when the user's not signed in. So, just clearing that up, before the project's over of what it should be like for signed in and signed out people. And then we have Steffi.
Yeah, I think our group is very good at communicating. And I think one thing we could do if everybody wanted to is just like, it seems like we all are asking questions that we're gonna end up answering when we get to the like design portion, but it could be cool to like really sit down and just the four of us talk about what we want to do. And the auth issue being like one of them. Because we could start to set up our code now as we're writing it rather than waiting. Just as an idea.
And then Aloe.
Yeah, I second that. And then also just like I think I guess I haven't fully looked through all of what the issues are for each of them and like what all the acceptance criteria is for each issue, but like I feel like input validation and kind of that user auth and just what are all the ways that we can break this, and like is that stuff accounted for in our issues, or is that stuff that we should be like thinking about? Yeah, I mean it is stuff that we should be thinking about, but like should there be a conversation about it rather than just like questions here and there?
And then Emilio.
Just the initial Firebase issue as Aloe and Denny already mentioned, so nothing to add on that. We can.
And then it's me, just seconding the learning module discussion. So there were like what 4 or 5 of the different learning modules. So just spending like a little bit of more time on that probably would have been nice to see if there were any more questions. Um, or interesting things to talk about. And then we have Nick.
Yeah, we may have already mentioned some of these, but it's like there's a couple of follow-up items that we kind of saw in the demos today, like the error handling on the not being signed in case, and then getting rid of some of the outdated code comments, but very easy things to do. Oh, and then I have this other one that I'll be making a doodle form for everyone for office hours next week. And a good time to mention I have to go right after this call, so it might be like tonight that I send out the doodle and upload this meeting to YouTube. So
Sounds good. Aloe.
I didn't see that Nick already covered the comments, so I have no added information.
Okay. It's fine to double up. Like Danielle said, thinking about the same thing is probably a good thing. Emilio.
Yeah, so we discussed as a group user and input validation, how we would address that for certain aspects of the project. And we decided as a team that we would address that later on, as it is probably going to come up later anyway.
And then Aloe.
I also kind of covered this in the what could be improved, but just from my experience with input validation, like we shouldn't allow a user to type something with like 150 characters when they're making a list. So just like stuff like that, or yeah, but I don't know if that's in a future issue or not. So
I think some of it is, but I need to look at it again. And we'll get to it. So
totally.
yeah. Steffi.
I think Aloe had mentioned when he clicked on, oh, it was when he clicked on the list at the home page in the demo, it didn't navigate to the managed list, or didn't navigate anywhere. But I didn't remember that was a part of the issue at all. And so then I thought, was it supposed to, or is that something we want to add? It was something I thought we should readdress.
I think that my computer might just have had issues because when I signed out and signed in, I had an issue, but I was on the homepage list, and when I clicked the list, like in theory, like y'all's code worked, and y'all's code would have populated me, or I guess maybe not necessarily, because when you're adding a list, it redirects then. So I don't think we've added it yet to the homepage. So yeah.
Were we supposed to? Like, was that supposed to be in there or?
I don't believe that was in our criteria.
Okay,
But we can check.
yeah, cool, thanks.
Okay, looking good. Yeah, and that's definitely something to think about too. Like maybe just having an indicator on the current list that you're on, like next to those buttons or something, could be a way to approach this, or moving over to that other page and um, just stuff to think about for the final product. Like currently the list page doesn't actually inform you what list you're on. You have to kind of figure it out from the items that are there. So stuff like that all could be added to help the user out and figuring out like where they are without having to go back to the homepage, click on the list that they want to be on if they're unsure, that kind of thing. But it's good to notice those things now so that we know like you get like that curse of knowledge where you're like, I know how it's supposed to work, but would someone new know how this is supposed to work? So okay. And then I think that's it for the retro. I think I'll pass it to you, Danielle.
Yeah, sure. I think final announcements for this week, I put it in Slack as well, just so you can have it in writing. But Nick's going to be sending out a doodle for office hours, and then Jeremiah is the code reviewer. So feel free to add him when you're ready for a mentor code review. But yeah, I guess unless anyone else has any questions, comments, concerns, we call this done.
Oh, just as an update, I will not be here next Sunday. I've already communicated that. But yeah. Actually, it might be the next 2 Sundays if I'm correct. We're on the 18th. Yeah, so the next 2 Sundays I will be unavailable. The one after that I will be back.
Yeah, we'll have this recorded for you so you can watch it on your own time. Sounds good. Awesome. Well, have a great week, everyone. And as always, let us know if you have questions. Asynchronous communication, so it might take a little bit of time for us to respond, but we will respond. So cool. See you all later.
See you
Thanks,
all.
bye.